him before he was attacked, just as well. Vigilantes had already beaten up this man before the military rescued him. In Gao, those said to have cooperated with Mujao, the movement for jihad and unity, who ruled this city for 9 months, are in acute danger now.
They're from Mujao. They're the Islamists who have gone into their homes to hide. So we've been rounding them up to hand them over to the military.
Days of joy emerging into days of vengeance. On Saturday, as Malian soldiers entered the town, a jihadi fired into the crowd. The pictures are too graphic to show. He was lynched, torn limb from limb, left mutilated and dead. Today we saw one of the jihadis' weapons caches. The people of Gao are full of anger about the men who used their town as a base for their war against all things Western. And there's no one here to stop them taking revenge. We took a short tour of the destruction of Gao. Goats patrol the bank the jihadis looted and then blew up. No one's dancing at the nightclub they destroyed with rocket-propelled grenades, or praying at the Catholic Church, which they scaled to pull down the cross. Rebuilding may be easier than repairing the damage done to people's lives and minds. In Timbuktu today, people came out to see how the jihadis destroyed the past as well as the present, burning the famous 17th century Islamic manuscripts kept in the museum.
They're the heart and soul of Timbuktu's people. When they hurt them, they hurt the people of Timbuktu. Everyone was crying.
African troops are readying to keep the peace after the French have stabilized Mali's northern cities. Stopping revenge attacks against those accused of collaborating with the jihadis may be one of their hardest tasks. Lindsay Hilson, Channel 4 News, Gao.
Violent clashes continued between Egyptian security forces and protesters across the country. At least 2 people died in the capital, Cairo, with Egypt's top military commander warning the instability sweeping the country could lead to the collapse of the state. And former youth minister under deposed Ivorian President Laurent Gbagbo, Charles Blé Goudé, has made his first court appearance in Abidjan. Blé Goudé was arrested in Ghana and is facing charges of war crimes, murder and violating security. We have details in this report.
2 people were killed in Cairo as violence and unrest in Egypt entered a 7th day. A total of 54 people have died in clashes between police and demonstrators angry at President Morsi's policies. Egypt's military chief warned the political crisis sweeping the country could lead to the collapse of the state. Meanwhile, opposition leaders on Wednesday called for urgent talks on the crisis just 2 days after they rejected President Morsi's call for dialogue. Charles Blé Goudé, the former head of Côte d'Ivoire's Young Patriots, the pro-Laurent Gbagbo movement, appeared before an Ivorian court for the first time. He was surrounded by security guards as he saluted supporters. Blé Goudé was arrested in Ghana on January 17th and extradited to Abidjan. He's accused of war crimes, murder, violating state security, and embezzlement of public funds. A Dutch court on Wednesday rejected a bid by Nigerian farmers to hold Anglo-Dutch oil giant Shell responsible for damages to their villages, saying only its Nigerian subsidiary was partly responsible. The court said that Nigerian law does not oblige a parent company to prevent its subsidiary from harming third parties abroad. 4 farmers and a fisherman first filed the case in 2008 against the Netherlands-based group. In one claim only, the court ruled that Shell's Nigerian subsidiary must pay damages to the farmers and fishermen involved. Fires ravaged South Africa's scenic winelands, stoked by strong winds and hot weather. The authorities declared a code red emergency in the picture postcard region some 60 kilometers from Cape Town. Over 7,000 hectares of land, including farmlands, have already been destroyed. Strong winds and high temperatures made conditions difficult for firefighters.
Well, in the midst of a terrible tragedy, some stories of heroism are emerging days after a fire killed more than 200 people in a nightclub. CNN Shasta Darlington spoke to a woman who survived the fire, thanks to a stranger who didn't make it alive.
Pamela Vedovoto is looking for the name of a man she calls her guardian angel. I don't have words to thank him, she says. If it weren't for him, I'd be in with all of those people who died. He gave me a new life. But Rafael de Oliveira himself is in the newspaper's list of dead. Rafael and Pamela were both inside the Kiss nightclub early Sunday morning when a fire broke out. Panicked clubgoers ran for the exit as the air filled with smoke. Pamela was pushed against a metal barrier, unable to breathe. A girl fell under the barrier and everyone was pushing. Her neck was snapped backwards and she fell dead on the floor, she says. Everyone was shouting, "Help! God, get me out of here! It was hell! Get me out of here!" A man who she would later discover was Rafael grabbed her and carried her towards the door. She says he pulled her yellow dress over her face so she wouldn't breathe the smoke. There were all these people on the floor shouting for help, she says, and we stepped on them, all these girls in high heels. Pamela, a 19-year-old high school student, snapped this photo on her cell phone just before the chaos broke out. The other young woman died. More than 230 people were killed that night, most of them from smoke inhalation, and many were trampled. This is the nightclub Kiss, and that right there is one of the main reasons Pamela almost didn't make it out alive. There's just one door in and one door out, not a single emergency exit. The club was packed with about 2,000 revelers, more than twice the official capacity. Rescue workers had to tear down walls to reach survivors and get to the bodies. Police have since arrested 2 club owners and 2 members of the band whose pyrotechnic show police believe could have started the fire. Pamela says she has no sympathy for them. Everyone is dead, she says. Everyone is dead because of them. They should rot in jail. They didn't lose anyone. But it's the thought of Rafael that troubles her the most. Monday, Pamela went to the makeshift morgue where bodies were laid out. She found his coffin and met his parents. I asked for their forgiveness, she says, for not keeping him from going back in. I could have grabbed him. I could have stopped him. Shasta Darlington, CNN, Santa Maria, Brazil.
Well, from that very touching story, we go with our second break. We'll be right back.
EcoBank, we see a great future, one that's full of opportunity for those who want to be the best. With over 1,000 branches of a single bank across 33 African countries. It's a future where trade can flourish without boundaries. The future is breathtaking, with enormous cross-border investments helping business and government build new infrastructure, while individuals achieve their ambitions right across Africa. The future is Pan-African, and EcoBank is the Pan-African bank.
We are now joined by our Mamoudou S. Jallo for a look at the sports. Mamoudou?
Thank you, Aji. Well, Burkina Faso have booked a place in the last 8 of the African Cup of Nations after securing a credible goalless draw against cup holder Zambia. In the other game in Group C, African powerhouse Nigeria scored 2 late penalties to defeat a resolute Ethiopia 2-0 to progress to the quarterfinals. We have details of those stories in this report.
Title holders Zambia were knocked out.